Okay, you are screen sharing. How? Okay, yeah, we're good. We're good. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our presentation for Digital Wellness Day, and a happy Digital Wellness Day to everyone. So as you can see, our presentation is educating youth on mindful, healthful, safe, and intentional habits. And then just real quick, my name is Peyton.
Hi, I'm Anne Marie.
And my name is Sarah.
And we just want to welcome you just with our names real quick before we get started. So here's a quick, just kind of brief overview introduction of what we're going to go over today. So there's going to be a self-reflection. We're going to talk about some main culprits, the positive aspects of social media, and then just kind of our own personal stories. So just another quick intro to me. My name, obviously, like I said, is Peyton, and I'm a student at Cal Poly out in San Luis Obispo, California. And then I kind of got connected with these two through past athletics in high school. And I am truly so blessed to have kept up these connections and kind of made something I'm super passionate about through those connections.
Awesome. Sarah, you want to give a little intro on you?
Yeah, so I am going to be a senior at the University of South Florida down here in Tampa, Florida. I agree with Peyton. I am truly honored to know these wonderful women, actually through high school athletics and running, something that is still a huge part of my life. But in terms of media and my own media usage, this platform and the stuff that we will talk about later is something that I'm super passionate about. And I'm just really happy to be part of a team that's working to spread this important message.
Awesome. So a little bit about me and about LessMediaMoreMe, which is the company we have formed. So after 37 years in the health and wellness industry, I just started to become more aware of the role technology, specifically social media, was playing in the emotional health of all of us. So 2 years ago, I made the decision to restart my educational process, finishing the journey in March with the Digital Wellness Institute. Today, we are going to cover a variety of complex topics about youth and adults and their relationship with social media as it relates to emotional well-being. Keeping in mind that this is the first generation to parent with technology, and this is the first generation to grow up with technology. This is just the very beginning of a conversation, and our hope is that you are open to hearing, learning, and reconsidering your relationship and consumption of social media. It's been a privilege to work with both of these young women, and a special shout out to Peyton for putting not only the presentation together, but all of our media on Instagram and our webpage.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the self-reflection. We just kind of wanted to do this to get your brain kind of working, a little quick insight on yourself. So if you copy and paste this link, it'll take you right to the digital flourishing reflection. And so you are the only person who will see this. So do not worry about privacy issues. And then if you wanted to even like bookmark it on your computer or phone, and then maybe save it for in a couple months, couple weeks even, and see if your score has improved. So just kind of take the time amongst yourselves to do that. It should only take like 2 to 3 minutes. And then we're just going to get right into the presentation. So this statistic, so 45% of adolescents reporting that they're almost constantly online, and 44 are saying that they're online at least several times a day. So not only is that at least several times a day really troubling, it's that almost constantly. So what you're seeing is that people are just almost constantly on their phone, on social media, on technology, kind of craving and looking for something most oftentimes they're overlooking in their own personal lives. And so this just kind of is to help you guys understand like the gravity and the huge breadth that this has on not only your own relationship with social media, but your relationship with your parents and your parents' relationship with social media. So this goes right into the conversation with your parents that you need to be having kind of to mend that relationship with social media in so many different aspects. And we know that it's really difficult and that it can be awkward, but I think you're going to find it really rewarding, because what you're seeing are not only are adolescents struggling with their relationship with social media, but parents as well. And sometimes parents' relationship with it is even worse. So basically, parents play a huge role in your relationship with technology. So your presence on social media that is not your own. So when parents go and talk about their kid, brag about their kid on social media, kids are really struggling with forming to that identity and kind of seeing an identity being carved out from themselves. And then the reflection of parents' use of tech, how they're using it, how they choose to spend their time on social media. And then that directly correlates to how their kids are going to spend time on social media, because humans by nature will mirror and follow what they're being told to do, even if it's not directly told. They're kind of accepting that through mannerisms and through habit. And then parents' general lack of understanding of social media and tech is probably one of the biggest issues, just because people really do not understand what is all on social media and the power that social media and tech has. And what kind of the third point, what we're saying is parents, not their lack of understanding of how to use these things, but kind of what they contain. And so we'll kind of, as we go through these, just cite examples, resources, and then our own personal stories, just to try to get that full circulation of information going. And so the four main culprits, so social comparison, FOMO, cyber victimization, and escape, not only can these be found with adolescents, but also parents as well. So kind of that, what we're talking about, that connection between just that really unhealthy relationship people tend to have across the board. So the first one is cyber victimization. It is real and often unnoticed, and it happens all the time across every platform. So there really isn't a social media platform or technology or source of technology that's being used where you haven't seen an example of cyber bullying being played onto it. And so if Anne-Marie, do you want to kind of go into your own example? Because what we're seeing here, as you can see, there's that obviously correlation between cyber victimization, self-harm, suicide, and it's not through things that you would think like sexual remarks, online rumors, or mean comments. It's going to be that other piece that Anne-Marie is going to talk about.
Yeah, so this was something I definitely was aware of because it was a pain point to me. So it would be things like people sharing a picture of 5 people and tagging everyone in the picture but you, or not liking your photo that you posted, or blocking you so that you can't see their content anymore, and they can't see your content anymore, but really you know that they have blocked you. Cancel culture is also definitely a big thing. So my first experience with this was actually several years ago when somebody had shared a story on Facebook that was about me, although they didn't use my name. And by the time I had gotten home from work, I literally had 6 or 7 messages from people saying, "Oh my gosh, did you see what that woman had said about you?" And I was like so taken back by the entire experience. It really kind of started my understanding that this was the new playground bully.
Yeah. And so not only in Anne-Marie's demographic are we seeing this, I know I can give a quick example, and then Sarah's more than welcome too. But like even on Instagram and stuff, I would find myself being so upset if I was maybe not even the foreground of the picture, but a background, and I wasn't being tagged. I just felt that kind of disconnect from the people who were posting the pictures or kind of talking about it, because it was in the moment. I just remember feeling so excluded because I wasn't tagged. I wasn't a part of that conversation. And then it just kind of made me reflect on saying, like, why is this so troubling and upsetting to me? And kind of realizing it's that human nature of seeking validation or seeking inclusion from others, when in reality, it's like that false sense. And then Sarah, did you want to, if you had like a story or anything, if you wanted to.
Yeah, something very similar actually to what Peyton just shared, but I know like sometimes I would like go on Snapchat and go on like Snapchat stories and like see like all these people at like a restaurant or like a friend's apartment and like constantly be thinking to myself like, oh, why wasn't I invited to that? Like, did I do something wrong? But then like, I think it goes back to just our need to feel like we belong. And it's not maybe necessarily these people weren't intentionally trying to exclude me, but being on social media, that's how it feels like sometimes when we're always seeing things from the outside. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then that kind of goes, we just wanted to take like a second to acknowledge that kind of what we just talked about could be kind of a lot to think about, because there could be some things that we're slipping in as cyber victimization that you could not even notice. So just take that moment and kind of take this moment to reflect now and throughout this presentation on just kind of new things you're learning or new things you're finding out. But we do understand this can be a really hard subject and kind of really eye-opening. And then that brings us into social comparison. So social comparison, regardless of social media and tech or not, everyone feels it, whether it's in school or at work. You are constantly comparing yourself to others by human nature. But one thing that social media and tech is doing is it's providing platforms where that is all you're constantly doing. So instead of going to school for 6 or 7 hours, and then our demographic, adolescents, middle school, that's already such a raw time where if you were at school for 7 hours socially comparing, in the past you could have gone home and that could have been a safe space where you could kind of block that out, be around people who you don't really compare yourself to, where now it's constant. It's that constant reminder, constant seeking validation from others. And I know parents do this as well, like I said, at work, and then they go home and then same thing, same phone issue. So it just correlates with that social media use leads to body surveillance. So just kind of monitoring one's own body and becoming more judgmental, becoming more surveillant of yourself and your others. And then you're just constantly seeing profiles of attractive people, attractive lives, only positive lives, only positive bodies, I guess. And then that just keeps correlating and it builds up. And actually, Emory found that 70% of Americans suffer from disordered eating. And that is different from eating disorders, but nonetheless, it's still really serious and seriously troubling, because that is way more than half. And that's nearly, I mean, there is that difference between 70 and 100%, but that's shocking. Yeah. That's shocking. And so that issue of Photoshop, unattainable body ideas, profit from perfect, social norms being redefined, all of these are coming from companies that know this. And not only do they know that these adults, kids, teenagers, not only do they know that they're really self-conscious, they have no problem profiting off of that and profiting off of your insecurities. And so what they're actually seeing is an increase in influencers. So like the influencer marketing will become a $10 billion industry by 2020. I'm sure that's greatly surpassed, but just that constant, that brand of your life, or that feel that you need to brand your life, is seriously diminishing relationships with yourself and with others. And then I just kind of a personal story on this, like I found myself in a really deep rabbit hole of just forgetting that these people are, they are being paid by companies. They're being sent clothes, they're being sent makeup, their Botox is being paid for, their surgeries are being paid for to alter their look, ultimately to make Instagram work more money, make brands more money. And then that becomes something that you seek, and it's just so unattainable. And that really damaged my relationship with self and self-image.
Yeah. And just remember that the word, influencer, which I think is a terrible word. And then ask yourself as a parent, do you want your kid to be informed so they can make an educated decision? Or do you want your kid to be influenced by somebody else who you may not even know? And just keep in mind, parents, when it comes to social comparison. So as adults, we are making our lives, our lifestyles, our accomplishments, and quite frankly, worse yet, our kids' accomplishments, our brand. This is something that we are, living up to. We want people to aspire to be more like us, right? To have the perfect Mother's Day or the perfect vacation or the perfect kid graduating from school.
Yeah. Sarah, do you have anything like a story or side note about influencers or even social comparison? I know is a huge one.
Yeah, I think Anne Marie just kind of hinted on it. Sometimes I feel like, especially when I do something great in my life, which is like so exciting, but then like my parents go and post about it on their social media page, and it's just like this long explanation of all of my accomplishments. I almost feel like a weighted expectation is then put on me to keep going just like that. And then subconsciously, I'm always, playing that social comparison game of how can I be better than the next kid, or how can I, make my mom proud? Whereas really it's my story, and I shouldn't really be having to juggle who am I better than, who am I, beating in the whole social media realm. So that definitely resonated with me.
So this was kind of shocking too. So almost 1/3 of all Instagram channels are micro influencers. So that could be anything from famous people such as like with our demographic, it'd be like David Dobrik, or a celebrity promoting their newest skincare. But that can even get down to even like a person you knew from high school who's promoting a product because they're like one getting sent it or getting paid to promote it. So it's just that constant that money from product from money, and then that endless cycle. So now we're going to get into sharenting, because this is a huge aspect of what kind of Sarah and Anne-Marie have already like covered, is that social comparison of not only parents sharing information about themselves, but sharing information about their kids.
Absolutely. Yeah, just remember that the amount that you're sharing online is to make somebody buy into your brand. And I know that sounds like really harsh to hear, but we were talking about that today. Even if like yesterday was Mother's Day, you could have just perhaps shared a picture of you and your mom or you and your family. But what most people do is they share a picture and then they go into a diatribe of why their experience was superior and their family is great and their kids are great. So maybe if you do want to share that picture, maybe just share the picture. Doesn't need a comment. It doesn't need an explanation. Sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, or perhaps just text that picture to 5 or 6 friends.
Yeah. And then just to show like the breadth and how serious this problem is, 8 in 10 parents surveyed posting things about their children on social media sites, and 3/4 are citing that they're sharing it to share with family and friends. But there's also that 36% admitting that they showcase their children's accomplishments to compare to others. So it's not only an adolescent issue, it's an adult issue. And then Sarah, I know too, you had a story about this as well.
Yeah, I mean, like this just kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. It was particularly hard for me when I was like transferring colleges, just to like have my mom like post more about like where I'm going and like what I'm doing. And now I'm, in Tampa and like living this grand life, which I feel like I am. But especially on a public platform like Facebook, if I don't go on it for very often, and then I like hop on every like couple months, I just see all these things about me, like that's not even who I am anymore. Like the whole identity and this idea of self becomes like super hard to figure out, especially as it relates to like who my mom knows me to be, because I don't know, the story that she was saying to all of her friends on Facebook might be different than what's actually happening in my life. So there's definitely like a divide there. And ultimately, like it's my story to tell, not my family's.
Exactly. And then so that leads into FOMO. So social comparison and FOMO can kind of go hand in hand, but everyone feels it. And then it also happens off of social media and technology just due to human nature. But what they're finding is that more than half of people, if they don't have like their phone immediately on them and say they're at like dinner or a restaurant, they're gonna feel anxious and they're gonna feel like they're missing out on something, even if they're in a present moment, because they simply don't even have that technology in their pocket to look at what other people are doing. And then I know I have just like an example off the top of my head. So whenever my family goes out to dinner, sometimes we'll be asked, my sister and I will be asked to leave our phone in the car, leave our phone at home, which is a great idea and a great way to kind of make that step towards de-leaning on social media and technology. But you can physically, my sister, she is a junior in high school, and you can physically like feel the anxiety that she feels because she doesn't have her phone with her. She's like, she'll like verbally state, I wonder what this person's doing. I wonder what X and Y people are doing. And instead of enjoying that moment and connecting with your family and making memories, you're worried about the wrong people, the wrong space, the wrong time, and the wrong idea.
Yeah. And just keeping in mind too, that the parents' relationship with that is that, so now you've got kids that are afraid that they're missing something. And your experience is that you go out to dinner and you share the picture of you and your friends, your family going out to dinner, or, you know, you have Mother's Day brunch and you share the picture of Mother's Day brunch. So we're actually feeding into that cycle. But, you know, so one of the decisions that I had made almost a year ago is that I don't share birthdays, holidays, but I don't share anything. I don't share content. And I've actually had people say to me like, you know, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, everything's all good. It's like, I have to say you don't miss it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that problem of like creating a picture rather than creating a moment. Correct. So it just happens way too often. And then actually parents, they say that they're spending too much time on the mobile and social media. So on the left, so almost every demographic has a higher percentage than 50. So the left is on their smartphone and the right is on social media. So that's just pretty startling. And then Anne-Marie, didn't you want to talk about how that kind of creates that identity problem with adults and how they share way too much or kind of use that as an identity rather than actual self-identity?
Yeah. So that was, you know, is that you're creating this, a brand for yourself, right? You're outdoorsy, or you're, you know, you take luxury vacations, or your kid is going to Ivy League schools. I mean, it's this constant, or even the opposite, right? Like my kid's a handful. I'm always a hot mess. Like, it's whatever persona you're actually creating online becomes your brand. And I know there are people that use social media platforms for business, right? I'm a small business, and I do use platforms for business. We're using social media as a platform for business. But I would tell people to reconsider their personal relationship with it. It could be very different than your business relationship with it. Like on my business platforms, people don't know that I'm married. They don't know how many kids I have. They don't know where I live, and they don't know my last name.
So what she was saying, like just the truth, it's such a false sense of presence. It's not the full picture. And then it also can emphasize current society trends. So even like the concept of teen drinking, the more kids see it on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever, they're going to think that that's normalized. Whereas like that may be normalized on technology and social media, but that's not normalized in real life. And kids are really having a hard time forming that distinction, that line between social media and tech and real life. And then that brings us into escape. So it is blissful, but it's really, really temporary. And so it's just that aspect that people create this constant hole that they can't fulfill because they think it can be fulfilled by social media. So when you go in on your phone looking for that 2-minute escape from whatever it is, you're actually just creating a deeper hole, and it's really hard to dig yourself out of. So real life is minimized. That procrastination aspect, just that countless time that you waste on your phone that you can't get back. And then it's just that healthy versus non-healthy escape. There's so so many different ways to do it. And then Anne-Marie, you wanted to talk about the detox aspect,
Yeah,
right?
so that was one of the things. I already told you that I thought that what's the word that I think is the most terrible word?
Detox.
No, before detox. Influencer,
Yes.
right. My second worst word is detox. So, there's no such thing as, do you guys digital detox or even like food detoxes, I sometimes like almost like cringe at. So if you guys know anything about addiction, alcohol and drug addiction are treated very differently than food addiction, because food is something you have to learn to live with. It's something you have to learn to have a relationship with. Where if you're an alcoholic, you can simply take alcohol out of the equation. Technology is the same thing. We have to learn to be in relationship with our technology. We have to learn to live with it, because it's not ever going away. And just really quickly, there's so much research and data that supports it's not the amount of time you're spending on social media. It's actually what you're consuming on social media or consuming on technology that is having a negative impact. And I know, Sarah, you have a story to share about that, right?
Yeah, the biggest reason why I took a really critical stance and look at my social media usage was when the pandemic first started happening, and all that I was consuming had to deal with fear of the pandemic, fear of no one really knows what's going on. Borders were shutting down. Everyone was pretty scared about getting sick. And so when that was all that I was consuming 24/7, it was really did not help with my health things related anxiety, social isolation, because I was addicted to it. I would just constantly sit there and scroll, like trying to search for this answer that wasn't going to be on my phone. So yeah, it's really like a cyclical loop, because if you don't take the time to really assess what it is doing to you mentally, it can get really hard to just stop and put the phone down.
Totally. So it was interesting that you said that, right? Like you were searching for answers, and then you realized that's not the place to search for answers, because you had an experience with that.
Yeah.
Too.
So it kind of goes off of this as well. So it's basically that it's like you have access to just terrible information from quote unquote experts, because basically like what people tend to believe is like if someone posts, and it could literally be anything, if someone were to say I don't know, like the
only drink water for 7 days, you'll have mental clarity,
right? Like, and you don't really even think to question the credit of the person just because it's posted online. That becomes like credential in your mind. And so just like a quick personal story, just like what really I realized I needed to mend my relationship with social media was like when I was at my lowest point of mental health and a bunch of other health related issues. I would go on and I would find these websites and these blogs and these people, and I'm like, wow, these people are feeding me the best information ever. I love it. It's like fueling something that is terrible. And I would think they were experts because they were posting on the internet. So I was like, they have to be right. They posted on the internet. And I know you can see this in adults too, of like the whole Facebook epidemic of just people posting whatever on Facebook, and it gets like people believe it. And that happened a lot with the election, but it's across the board. And then Sarah, you had, to understand, this graph real quick. So it's basically showing that parents actually believe that the internet is benefiting them more than children's ages 12 to 15. So when you see most kids get a smartphone, get on access to all this stuff, parents actually think that it is helping them more than children think it's helping them. And then Sarah, you had something about to understand what other people think and feel, and how like you would much rather have like a phone conversation than text or vice versa.
Yeah, I just think it's ironic that a lot of people, their maybe first go-to reaction with social media is that they like being on social media because they get to connect with people, which I would argue that you're not really connecting with anyone, because as humans, like really you can only have fruitful conversations when you're hearing somebody else's voice or you're in the physical company of another person. So I just think it's interesting that like seriously less than almost like a quarter of the people surveyed in this study, they said that social media helps them to understand what other people think and feel, because like clearly it's so hard to gain any feelings or emotion from like static content, from a picture or comments or things like that. So I think if there were to be any real like cognitive and social improvements in our future, it would start by putting the phone down, going and having a real life in-person conversation with somebody to understand them better.
Yeah, and then this leads us right into our lack of knowledge piece. So just like kind of what Sarah was saying, it's like that lack of knowledge like that parents have. So whether it's they send you a text rather than a phone call and you miss that connection with them, or it's that parents really don't understand that the power of information on social media. And then Anne-Marie, I know you can really touch on this one.
Yeah, there's some, and I will tell you, I think I was naive here. But the reality is, if your kids have a phone, they have a cell phone, they have access to everything from online bullying to sexting to porn, to self-harm sites, to bad habits. These streaks that these kids are creating, everything from, you know, TikTok and Snapchat, these streaks, everything is monetized. It's like, how many steps did you take? How many people liked your photo? Like, how many streaks do you have? How many days in a row did you go? And it's creating these crazy habits, but also kids are being exposed to information they should not be seeing. And they have exposure to strangers. So when these girls have shared with you that they're uncomfortable even with their parents sharing information about them, you have to remember that you're sharing your kid's first name, their last name, where they go to school, who they hang out with, where they work. They probably know where you live. You're sharing so much detailed information about your children that is being shared with millions of people, and maybe not, but it's being shared with a lot of people, potentially millions of people who are complete strangers to you and to them.
Yeah, so that is just like one of the scariest things to think about is probably the privacy aspect as well, and just how much are you actually sharing of yourself and how much of that actually do you want out there? So ways to combat. So I know all that information can be kind of daunting and scary. So I think real quick, we're each just going to give an example of kind of how we're combating this issue, or small steps that you guys can even take to really progress towards that healthier relationship. So past examples that we've talked about today are like put down your phone, keeping yourself busy, self-care piece. So I know one thing that I really want to do is to get my phone out of my bedroom before bedtime, before kind of like me time, is to get a physical alarm clock. So I don't even have that excuse of having a phone under my pillow to wake me up in the morning. And then Emery and Sarah, what are your little tidbits or advice?
So one thing I made the decision to do about a year ago was to totally separate my personal space on social media with my business page. And again, on my business page, even if I'm sharing a picture of me and 3 or 4 people, you don't know who those 3 or 4 people are. They could be my kids, they could be friends, they could be like, you have no idea who they are. So I made a very conscious effort. And I also made a very conscious decision to, with the exception of going to 4 places for business on Facebook, I do not go on Facebook anymore. And what about you, Sarah?
So I would say like the keep myself busy is something that I really want to work on. And this is mainly because I know like when I am having this like idle time and I'm not doing anything, I definitely like would want to pick up my phone because it's like the quick and easy way to just keep my mind like, I don't know, not occupied. But I've started writing and reading a lot, which is just like something that requires a lot more cognitive demand. And it's also more fruitful for me personally, instead of just picking up a phone and scrolling endlessly through something that I know won't bring me joy.
That's awesome.
Love it.
And then that goes into our 10-minute test, like self-care aspect. So basically for 10 minutes, like what we're asking you to do or what we're asking ourselves to do is set a timer for 10 minutes and just doing something that is not on your phone. So like if you feel that, if like you're bored or you feel the urge to go on your phone, set a timer for 10 minutes, read, go for a walk, call a friend instead, or do your homework. So not only does this create that productivity cycle, so like what you will find is that 10 minutes of homework, once you kind of get in the groove of doing it, you're going to want to complete that task. You're going to kind of want to get your stuff done, or it's reading, you're going to get indulged into that book, especially if it's something that you enjoy reading. And then obviously everyone knows the benefits of taking a 10-minute walk, getting outside, getting fresh air for 10 minutes, calling a friend, hearing a loved one's voice, just like what that does to the mental health aspect of yourself. And then that ties into the self-care piece. Take time for you. So all that time that's on your phone, that's just taking away time that you could be spending, that's more fulfilling for you, more progressive towards your goals, towards your values, just something that would bring you joy rather than, looking at other people for 10 minutes. And then keeping the phone out of room and hand. I know I said I wanted to get a physical alarm clock just to help with not only like that mental aspect of constantly needing to be on your phone, but what you're finding is that more sleep is going to lead to better mental health. So these graphs Anne-Marie can kind of discuss, but what you're seeing is that people get into like this cyclical behavior of not being able to sleep because they're on their phone, and then they go on their phone because they can't sleep. And then they're just getting this terrible, terrible sleep patterns, sleeping habits. As you can see here, less sleep is leading to higher anxiety. So I know like as a college student pulling all-nighters, like I know the damage of that. However, I would never correlate that with spending too much time on phone before bed, when in reality it's the same thing. You're still losing sleep, you're still your mind's still racing, you're still causing that just anxious tension.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do complete studies, complete programs, complete conversations with people on sleep hygiene. It is definitely something, it's the most underrated supplement period on the planet. Right behind water is sleep. We need to be able to sleep more. We should be sleeping consistently 8 to 10 hours a night. One of the first and best things you can do is get the cell phone out of your room. I have a bunch more tips, and we'll actually be sharing them on our website and on our Instagram page. So keep a lookout for those.
Yeah. So obviously, real quick before we end, we just want to acknowledge the positives of social media. We obviously couldn't be doing this presentation without social media. All of our platforms are social media because it does get information out there. We're not anti social media technology, because that would be it would be very hard to do, almost impossible, especially today. But we're very pro digital flourishing. So using technology, using social media to benefit yourself and benefit others. So if that's making a connection, keeping up relationships, that access to information, access to millions of scholarly sources that you have at your fingertips, technology advancements that it's made in medicinal fields, regardless of where, there's so many different aspects. And then that adjustment in times like today, especially that are so stressful and like just insane circumstances, kids are still being able to go online, get their education, have that sense of normalcy, and something that it's like really scary. So we do want to acknowledge that it's not all bad, but there definitely needs to be that conversation of how people can progress their relationship.
Yeah, so as we close out, I want to again give a shout out to the Digital Wellness Institute for hosting an incredible day, Digital Wellness Day. They have done an amazing job putting incredible speakers together and giving you access to that. I know all of these presentations have been recorded and uploaded on their site, so you'll have access to them for time to come. But we at Less Media More Me hope that you find that our information is a positive resource for you to not only be social online, but to be interactive online. We definitely want to hear from you. And what I want to do before we close off is kind of lead with our 2 signature questions. And so we will start with, given the choice of talk or text, Sarah, which would you prefer?
Oh, definitely talk, because you can just get so much more emotion and joy from talking to somebody than texting them.
I love it. What about you, Peyton?
Talking, hands down.
Nice.
Every time.
I love it. And given the choice to go back and do high school again without social media, would you be in or out?
In.
Yeah, very much
In. No questions.
No social media?
No social media.
Because then, like, I think I would have been so much more confident in myself and like my own image, instead of constantly comparing myself to what I was looking at on my phone.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think Peyton's going to close us out and let you know where you can find us.
Yes. So we just want to take a quick moment to say thank you. Of course, it's not an easy conversation. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to watch this. And we hope you really want to get more information from us or learn more about us. So our Instagram is at LessMediaMoreMe. Our website is LessMediaMoreMe.com. And then any conversation, you can either DM us on Instagram or email Anne-Marie at missiondrivenwellness123@gmail.com. So we're readily available across these platforms. So reach out for more information, reach out for questions, comments, concerns, discussions. We would love to have discussions with everyone. And then our resources for today's presentation, not only these, but a huge thank you to the Digital Wellness Institute. And we just wanted to make sure that you guys knew we were giving you guys scholarly sources and not just pulling information out of thin air.
Awesome. You guys have a great day. Thanks for being here.
Happy Digital Wellness Day.
Bye, Sarah. Great to see you.
Bye, Sarah.
Bye. So good to see you.